These two guys have Minnesota sports flowing in their veins. Mackey and Judd on Score North and ScoreNorth.com.
When it's 34-26 on the fourth down play incomplete in the end zone, what was your advantage point, and what happened on that play in your estimation?
It looked like he just missed him.
Did Kirk seem a little bit off today? I mean, he also had that 3-point conversion where he looked like he missed the guy as well.
No, I thought he played well.
That's it.
Oh, God.
Thanks,
dude.
Mike. That really that enlightened things. Chris Thomason asked the questions, and you gave 3-word answers.
He played so well, Kirk, yesterday. I just,
Thought he played well.
Bravo to how well he played, especially in the second half. It's never his fault. Never his fault.
I thought he played well. I thought the whole team. I mean, they are giving an effort of which I have not seen before.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. That's the season-long theme. It's clear that somebody got to Mike and said, "You got to tone it down, Mike. They're going to lose games, and if you complain constantly and call them soft, they're going to check out." So now it's always these guys compete.
But what's the? Here they are again. They're 5-6. There's the Vikings show you a million different ways to get to almost playoffs.
Phil, what more do you want? They're competing.
I want statements. I want statements. That's what I want. All right. This is Mackey and Judd, daily Minnesota sports entertainment therapy, loathing in this case. And what was a great weekend for Minnesota sports across the board.
Was.
Wild victories, Timberwolves with a huge road double overtime win, the Axe. I mean,
in Philly, baby. The Wolves
Byron
in Philly.
Buxton signs a long-term extension,
Twins.
which for some people that's probably not good news, but for me it's good news. I like Byron Buxton.
We doubted the Twins. How dare we doubt Sir Falvian, Sir Levine? How dare we do that?
And then here come the Vikings, stumbling in, booze on their breath, and screw everything up. So, Judd, you delivered the first statement here on this Monday.
All right. First statement. Taking a page from the 90s cinema, Winona Ryder, Ethan Hawke, reality bites. That's my first statement. Reality bites.
Okay.
So the wins against the Chargers and the Packers gave us some hope. They gave us some hope. Hey, this team has turned a corner. Offensively, they're embracing what they do well. Maybe they have found the formula. Maybe they have found a sweet spot in which they can do something that, lots of teams struggle to do, which is make a real midseason adjustment and pivot. Sunday's game was just the latest example, though, and I don't want to hear it was close. And I don't want to hear about the officials. Sunday's game was the latest example of the work that is left to be done for this team to become a Super Bowl contender. So there's 7 teams now make the playoffs. I keep saying this. A crappy team is going to make the playoffs, okay? So don't say they made the playoffs. They can still, and they probably should, make the playoffs. But yesterday's game was really another part of the equation in realizing, if we didn't already, and yes, it's hard not to get your hopes up when they win back-to-back games, especially on the road against the Chargers and then at home against their arch rival. But it really was a reminder of where this team is at and how much work is left to be done. And do they have some parts that I really like? Absolutely they do. Justin Jefferson's a great player. They've got some nice parts. But those parts are just the outside of the frame of the car. The engine's not working great. It doesn't hum consistently. There's a lot of things that need to be improved upon. Reality bites, but we got reality on Sunday.
The Vikings, God, they love to pop up late November, right? Last year, in fact, I just pulled the last couple of years. So 2019, late November, week 11 was the 20-point comeback against the Denver Broncos, right? November 17th at home, going into a bye. Just a great feel-good regular season win over a meh AFC team. Last year, it was week 12. Was another come-from-behind victory over the Carolina Panthers. And then last week against the Packers, it's like late November is the pinnacle for this football team. And then everyone lets their guard down, and they forget. No, like the great teams, that Packers game, that Chargers game, the season's not over. Like, great teams keep doing that time and time again. I'm not saying they were going to run the table, especially with 4 defensive linemen missing. But, it's almost like the last 2 games were this crowning achievement for this team, and look, that's the way that we can play football. There's nothing else to accomplish here. No, there's like 7 games left.
Well, yeah. And the formula on Sunday was perfect. It was absolutely perfect. You had the ball in the quarterback's hands with a chance to go down and tie. And really, your last 2 drives, you had that chance. And we were provided a reminder of the work that is left to be done and the changes that are probably absolutely necessary to be made. That's what I would say.
Yep. Okay. All right. My first statement here, piggybacking off everything Judd just said. When the Vikings needed him the most, Kirk Cousins completely short-circuited in the second half yesterday. The check engine light came on like early in the third quarter with, was it early in the third? When did he throw that ridiculous interception? That was third quarter.
Vikings his first pass in the third quarter.
Yep. Just a complete, like we haven't seen that really since the Falcons game last year. And he's been, like, statistically, which is his MO, on a tear since about, the midway point of last season. But the interception happens, and instead of flushing it or just moving on, he then throws a ground ball to Justin Jefferson on a key 2-point conversion. He goes full Donovan McNabb and just, 3 hops one to Justin Jefferson. Then he goes into rapid-fire check-down mode, Conklin, Madison, instead of Jefferson, Thielen, which is what got you points in the first half. He misfired on that late 4th down throw to Jefferson. But the absolute peak Kirk Cousins moment, maybe even of his Vikings career, in terms of full Kirkian brain malfunction. Playoffs are in the balance, and people were kind of arguing with me about that last night. Well, they're still the 7 seed. They're a game below 500, and they're clawing to maintain the 7 seed. Playoffs are very much in the balance at this point. If you win that game yesterday, 83% chance to make the playoffs. You didn't clinch yesterday, but if you win that game yesterday, playoffs are no longer in the balance. You're a game or 2 clear of everybody else with tiebreakers. But with playoffs in the balance, game on the line, clock ticking in the 4th quarter, Kirk Cousins lines up behind the right guard. What more needs to be said? In the biggest moment of the season to that point, hey, you tie this game, 1 stop, get the ball back. Your defense has allowed 200 yards rushing, and you're still sitting here with a chance to win the game. But it's tense. There's some anxiety. You're playing on the road. You got to rise up. And instead of rising up, he slides to the right. Actually, he was moving from the right because the wide receivers were confused. And people are using that to say, well, what's he supposed to do? Idiot wide receivers are confused. Well, it might be helpful if somebody in the huddle clearly communicated the formation. Why are we putting that on the two receivers? Both of them somehow were idiots and had no idea what was going on, or maybe there was some miscommunication from the guy delivering the play in the huddle, and he's realizing, oh my God, I got to fix this. But total panic moment in the biggest spot in the game.
But then he got a chance, okay, it's not ideal, but you called timeout 2. So, let's say you calm down. Everything calmed down. The timeout's gone. So now, and you get your chance at redemption on 4th down. Go back and watch that play. That's the problem. The 4th down play, Justin Jefferson, if that is in his vicinity, catches that ball. And Kirk...
He basically threw the ball away.
Yes, but go back and watch. He threw the ball away, and he talked about this because of what he perceived as pressure. But when they went to break on the Fox game right before that, they showed the end zone camera. So you were basically looking through Jefferson. And the pressure was this. It was coming, but he doesn't get hit until after he delivers the ball. Mm-hmm. Dude, that's this league. So it's not it's not as if he was taking a hit going down and I'm going to try and throw. He actually makes the throw and then he gets hit. That's how this league operates. And that ball, if it's anywhere if you bring that down just a little bit, Jefferson's going to catch that ball. So that's the astounding thing is he lines up under guard, burns a timeout, things are going nuts, has the chance to take a very deep breath and be like, okay, that sucked, but we are going to score. And he blew it again. That's the incredible thing. And go back and watch that. And I challenge anybody to tell me that bad throw was on anybody but Kirk. He got hit. Guys get hit all the time. That's how this league operates.
And again, this is the thing that people do too. It's like, well, why don't you? The defense gave up 200 yards rushing, to which I say, yeah, I think that was honestly, that was a realistic outcome going into the game. We
talked about that last week,
right?
Phil.
They're probably going to get road graded with 4 backup defensive linemen. So can they come over the top, win this game in a shootout, and pick on a pretty mediocre San Francisco pass defense? Yep. And despite giving up 200 plus yards on the ground, they had multiple chances still to win that game. The offense knew the mission going into that game, or at least they should have. You got to score 30 plus points, which isn't unrealistic with all the weapons that they have. And by the way, offensive line grades, Mason Cole was outstanding yesterday according to PFF. Ezra Cleveland was outstanding. Their 3 highest graded players were all offensive linemen. And so, the offensive line gave Kirk plenty of time to throw yesterday. If he doesn't malfunction in the second half and throw that terrible interception, and if he makes a couple throws that he should have made, a 2-point conversion here, don't freak out on 4th and goal the second time, I would say 3 bad Kirk Cousins, maybe 4 plays away from them winning that game. Huh? Is he the main reason why they lost? No, the run defense is. But he's being paid to win that game yesterday. And but he won the Packers game. Then that's great. But the season didn't end after the Packers game. And so they're probably going to beat the Lions. They're probably going to get back to 500. But this is classic Kirk Cousins, Mike Zimmer, spinning tires, and everything adds up to grinding for a bottom seed in the NFC playoffs. Same old story.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Sorry. Deck.
All right. Perfect piggyback. My statement is, if you don't know where your center is, you don't know where a Super Bowl is. And Kirk Cousins, my God, buddy, come on down. NFL veteran, and apparently the greatest Vikings quarterback since Dante Culpepper, right? Maybe even better than Fran Tarkington with all the stats he puts up, right? For God's sakes, with the way people defend him. On 4th down and goal, couldn't figure out where his own center was lined up. So he goes behind the guard. If I hear one more person ever blame the offensive line not being good enough for Kirk Cousins, I want you to play that play where he lines up behind his guard on loop. It's not missed officials. It's not missed kicks. He lines up behind the wrong player. His own backup running back is telling him, Kirk, you're in the wrong spot. Alexander Madison is saying, buddy, you got to move the hell over. I know it's 4th and goal. We're on the road. The crowd's probably a little crazy, but you have to step up here and get lined up under the right player. It's not even just, hey, this is going to be a big-time play. You got to deliver a strike. It's 4th and goal. This is crunch time. It's it. You lined up behind the wrong guy. This tops throwing to Latavius Murray with his back turned to the offensive line. This tops him taking a knee instead of spiking it when he was in Washington, which also Kirk Cousins did. This is now the all-time Kirk Cousins blunder. How in God's name do you think that guy can rise up and lead you to a Super Bowl when you're lining up behind the wrong player? So if you don't know where your center is, Kirk, I don't think you have any idea where a Super Bowl is.
Yeah. I mean, the stats. Look at the stats. Look at this. I feel like I can't think of a quarterback in NFL history where there's a wider gap for me between the stats he puts up that you could compare him to Hall of Famers depending on the stats that you look at, and the eye test. Because the stats would tell you, oh, he's Drew Brees, he's Dan Marino, he's Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady and this, that, and the other, right? But the eye test tells you he's a teeth clencher. In moments of crisis and adversity, he rises up sometimes, but largely gets swallowed up by the moment and is not going to be the one that, carries you through 3 playoff games or whatever it's going to be. And another eye test thing, too, teammates roll their eyes at him. Justin Jefferson yesterday was rolling his eyes a couple times. Look at that play where he lines up under the right guard, too, and
yep.
Guys are throwing their arms.
You remember?
Up, dude, what
throw
are you
the flag.
doing?
Throw the flag, Kirk.
He wasn't talking to the official.
Flag,
Talking about the flag route.
He was talking about the flag route. That's exactly right. Yeah, I mean, you think the look on Thielen's face is not caused because he's distressed about Jefferson, the run. The look on his face is because the quarterback and the offense as a whole doesn't function like it should. I mean, flat out, that game, as bad as the run defense was on Sunday, which we knew was probably going to be the case, you had to just go and tell Kirk and the entire offense, you're almost going to have to carry us. And they had a chance to win. And they still didn't. Like, you just got to cut it loose. And once he throws the pick, you got to say, Kirk, we don't care. Picks are going to happen. In fact, you know what, Kirk? Go throw another one. You've got to take those chances and throw potential picks, because we are going to need you today to put up probably 40-plus points.
Yeah. By the way, Kirk was pressured on only 6 dropbacks yesterday. Only 6 dropbacks with pressure yesterday. That's pretty incredible. I mean, that's a clean pocket all day on the road against San Francisco.
His first half stats before said pick, okay? 12 of 17, 147 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. It's damn good.
Awesome.
First throw of the second half is picked. His numbers thereafter, 8 of 15, 91 yards, the pick. I mean, it definitely.
And a lot of those 15 throws were not to Jefferson and Thielen.
And so the issue then is
he got spooked.
Exactly, but the issue then is, if you need him right now, you need him to help carry you. You can't take one mistake and allow it to impact your entire day, and he did, and that's unworkable. That's unworkable when you need him to help carry you.
He's the reliever in baseball that gives up a bomb in the playoffs and then can't get it right for 2 years, right? Or goes on a week-long stretch where he can't throw a ball over the plate. Yeah,
exactly right.
It's like, dude, it's fine. You threw an interception. It was a terrible interception, but that's okay.
It's going to happen.
He's still in the game. It's all good. All right, Judd.
Okay, I like to combine on this show a true passion of ours: reckless speculation. Mm-hmm. In the deduction of, because I feel like the whole thing of Kirk was under guard. What happened? What happened at the end of the first half? Everybody basically is like, oh, nothing happened. We just, you don't ask, don't tell, right? Right now, my statement's going to bring you the reality of what happened on both of those plays, because it's very clear. It's very clear, and they're never going to fess up. In fact, they haven't even fessed up about why I'm going to tell you this was caused. The statement is this.
Preamble to a statement.
Yeah, classics all good.
Too many chefs, okay? I told you guys 3 weeks ago, Andrew Janocko, the quarterback's coach, is clearly helping call plays now. There's no question.
Kirk chewed his ass going into the locker room at halftime.
So Kubiak's upstairs, Janocko is downstairs, and at some point, around the Chargers game, Janocko got more authority. And so it was Kubiak, Janocko, play goes into Kirk's helmet, which is why we saw what we saw at the end of the first half and when Kirk lined up under guard. It's very, very simple. Too many chefs. You have multiple people. Kirk and the offense freaked because what was clear was he had conflicting messages or something was coming in late to Kirk. That's why he lost his wits, because I'm work here guy. I work here. Tell me what to do. And Kirk can't shut the damn helmet thing off and be like, okay, guys, screw it. Here's my play call.
He could if he wanted to. You can't shut the headphones off, but
no, but in his mind he can't, because he works here. I work here. I'm employee number 8. That's my number. I checked. I went to work today and I put in my employee card. I'm number 8, and I'm being told what to do. But he clearly on both of those plays had multiple ideas that Kubiak and Janocko had percolating.
Yeah.
And that's why, go back and watch the last play of the first half when Kirk is pissed. He takes that ball like a 5-year-old and chucks it out of bounds. Mm-hmm. Because he's mad.
So
that play was going nowhere. He was mad and he chucked it like a 5-year-old having a tantrum, and that's why he started gesticulating like, "What were you guys doing? What were you guys doing?" That's multiple people trying to tell him what to do, because we don't really have one guy calling plays now.
Yeah, and I keep going back to our Purple Daily mission statement: Super Bowl. We want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl. When you see that cluster bleep at the end of the first half, and we even talked about the defensive cluster bleep, which is a historic defensive cluster bleep at the end of first halves this year. They've given up 66 points in the last, minute of the first
2 minutes.
half. 2 minutes?
Last 2 minutes.
It's crazy.
66
It's
points.
the most any team has ever given up
Yeah.
through this many games by far. So that aside, which is another thing, like how are you supposed to win a Super Bowl when you are that chaotic in the key moments?
You're done.
When you're that chaotic with 12 seconds left, the best teams in the NFL, the ones that win Super Bowls, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers with Tom Brady, right? And when the Seahawks were great with Russell Wilson back in the day, and name any number of teams, they are surgical with time management, timeout management, and they know exactly what they're calling. They know the 10 plays that they're going to run, and they're just picking the ones that make sense. And the Vikings move past they got a nice little 14-yard completion to Dalvin Cook. They move into like fringe field goal range. I get not kicking a 64-yarder. I'm fine with that. But you got 5 seconds left. What are you going to drop? Now, Justin Jefferson did slip on the play, and I do wonder, was the plan to throw it to Jefferson, quickly call timeout, and he slipped?
But they had 3 timeouts. Just the second he slips, call the timeout.
Well, you're in the middle of the play, though. You can't
You're saying, yeah. I thought he slipped at the end, too.
I think he
anyway.
slipped mid-route. But my point is,
Yeah.
it's such a cluster bleep in terms of, what play are we going to run? And that, it should either be a Hail Mary, it should be a quick pass, boom, 5 yards, down, timeout, or it should be a 64-yard field goal. And somehow they chose none of those options, and Kirk winds up throwing a pass out of bounds as the clock runs out.
He did it because he was mad, too. Like you could see that pass was like a screw it pass.
And for anyone saying, well, I mean, it's just one play. No, these are symptoms. If you want to win a Super Bowl, these are little symptoms. Chaos and disorganization at the line of scrimmage on a big 4th down play with the game on the line. If you can't operate and at least get the playoff that you want to, and not have mass confusion, and not line up under your right guard, how are you going to beat 4 teams in a row in January and February? You're not.
Well, and here's what I want, though. If my QB has as much experience as Kirk, and I pay him what Kirk makes, I want him to be like, I'll just call the play, guys. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, guys.
He's clearly trying to get direction like he's 25 years old. Give me direction. What am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do? Yeah. And that's why he went to the wrong position because he was so flustered by the fact that just work here guy wasn't being given the right instructions.
Yep. And even though the wide receivers lined up on the wrong side, which maybe it's the wide receivers' fault for not. It was 2 of them, by the way. It was KJ Osborne and Justin Jefferson. It's 2 for it to be 2 of them. If it's one guy, maybe that guy misheard the play or the formation in the huddle. If it's both, that would be such an amazing coincidence if both guys are wrong and Kirk said the play right and those guys heard it wrong. But major miscommunication either from Kirk or from
right. But that makes sense.
Kubiak.
But I bet you what happened was there were 2 at least similar calls that came in of some sort, and somebody said, no, we're supposed to be in this one, and Kirk freaks out and he's trying to get those guys to shift. I'm telling you, this is the dilemma of too many chefs.
And when your quarterback isn't a true leader, this is what
correct.
happens.
And your quarterback just had to take control at that point and be like, screw it, here's what we're going to do. And, he can't.
All right, my next statement here is the Mike Zimmer-Kirk Cousins pairing is what it is. It is what it is.
Thank you, Kelly Campbell.
A gravitational pull toward 500. Put it this way. If your franchise wins 3 games every single year and you're desperate to be more relevant, to win more games, then Mike Zimmer and Kirk Cousins might as well be your Bill Belichick and Tom Brady. They will get you to 8 or 9 wins and make you more relevant. But if your franchise has been around for 61 years with 0 Super Bowl championships, unfortunately, those guys will get you 8 or 9 wins. Maybe a playoff win. Maybe if you're lucky. But there is no evidence that those guys as a pairing, and in the 4 years, they are now 30, 28, and 1. So almost exactly 500. Which is not bad if you're the Jets or the Texans. I think those franchises would die to be 30, 28, and 1 over a 4-year stretch. But it's not good enough if you want to win a Super Bowl. And I think the 49ers, right now it looks like with their schedule too, they're probably going to finish over 500 like a 9 or a 10-win team because they've got this thing back on track. So coming into the season, Zimmer and Cousins were 5-19 as a pairing against teams that finished the season with a winning record. They're on track this year to be 2-5. If you think that Cincinnati's not going to tumble and the Cardinals aren't going to tumble, and San Francisco's probably borderline, I'm putting them in the above 500 list right now. So that would make them 7-24 against teams that finish the season with a winning record. I mean, you can divvy up the blame however you want, Cousins, Zimmer, or whatever it is, but exactly. It's a grab. And by the way, there's a lot of people that hear all of this and say, well, I mean, it could be worse. Could be the Jets. And that's true. Yeah. It definitely beats being a Jets fan. Maybe that's the new slogan for Vikings football. Beats being a Jets fan. You're not going to win a Super Bowl. You're not going to go to a Super Bowl, but you're also not going to be the Jets and have your season be over in week 3.
And you know what? For some, I think that's just fine. I really do. I think they're fine with, hey, we could be the Lions. Okay, yeah, you're right. You could be. But you also didn't sign Kirk Cousins to not be the Detroit Lions.
Yeah, I think the bar was...
You signed him to that contract to win a Super Bowl because you thought you were close.
Dex?
Yeah, one more statement from me here on the Vikes. My statement is, winners know how to win. And I'm talking about the combination of Jimmy Garoppolo and Kyle Shanahan. For all the crap Jimmy G gets, who is a flawed quarterback, by the way, he is a far from perfect guy. But you know what he does? The dude wins. He and Kyle Shanahan together have won games. And haters of the quarterback wins statistics, you might want to mute me. You might want to deduct me a point here. But at the end of the day, Jimmy and Kyle Shanahan are 30-42 together. 30 wins and 12 losses. 71% of the games that Jimmy Garoppolo has started for San Francisco, he has won. And in 57 games in Washington, Kirk Cousins won 26 of them. In 58 games in Minnesota, Kirk has won 30 of them. He's a far from a perfect quarterback and someone who I wouldn't give top dollars to. But Jimmy G, as much as crap as he gets, he had his team up 10 points in the Super Bowl against the Chiefs. And he gave that game away. Jimmy G did not have a great game in that Super Bowl, but at the end of the day, the dude has figured out ways to win ball games. And Kirk Cousins has not. How come, if Jimmy G is such a flawed quarterback, that Garoppolo is winning 71% of his starts, and Kirk Cousins, who is obviously more talented and a better quarterback than Jimmy G. And we have been critical of Kirk, but that's not a hot take. That's a fact, basically. How come Jimmy G has won more games than Kirk Cousins? Yeah. Why is that?
I think Kyle Shanahan's a better head coach.
Yeah. And that's probably
he takes Debo and puts him in the backfield. Think about that. Which when you see it, you're like, oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, makes perfect sense, right? You think the Minnesota Vikings would ever take Debo and put him in their backfield consistently? Of course they wouldn't. They'd tell you that's crazy talk. You're being crazy by talking about that. Shanahan has the ability, and he is also not a perfect coach, but he has the ability at least to see the game for what it is now, which is positionless football, and he puts people in positions that are going to give them opportunities to produce. I mean, we are literally in this town pulling teeth at times for Justin Jefferson to get balls thrown to him. Think about that for a second. And then get creative with them. And the Vikings did. They threw a pass. I love that. Threw a pass. Last week, he lined up in the backfield. I love that. Caught a touchdown pass. That was a really good idea.
But they ran a flea flicker yesterday.
Yeah.
They ran a flea flicker.
They did.
A wide receiver pass.
But think about if you had a 24/7 offensive mind who said, okay, I'm going to look at Nwangu, Jefferson. I got some ideas here. Think about that.
Yeah, it feels, not just feels like, it just flat out should be a better team than 5-6. They should not be stalling out for large chunks offensively like they do. Who's the innovator? Who's the offensive innovator? I mean, it's literally Clint Kubiak is your quote unquote offensive innovator.
Who knows at this point?
Zimmer's not. Also, something that drives me nuts here, and then we got to get to Randy and Cottage Grove here shortly.
Oh, boy,
but there's a Q&A that Mark Craig did with Kirk Cousins early in the week, and it came out yesterday before the game. And this sums it all up right here on the Zimmer Cousins front. So again, this is the 4th year those guys have been together. And Mark Craig writes that Zimmer used to spend time every week with Teddy Bridgewater, sitting down, talking about third downs, whatever, young quarterback. And he did it with Sam Bradford for a full year back in 2016, whatever it was.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then for whatever reason, whether it was you just didn't want to be hanging out with a backup quarterback, Case Keenum, or just like like he stopped doing it somewhere around 2017 Case Keenum, and certainly first year through year 3 of Kirk Cousins. And so Mark Craig asked Kirk Cousins, hey, it looks like you're having your best season of your career. How much is that help? Those meetings with Zimmer on Thursdays, how much is that helping you? And he said, quote, I think Coach Zimmer and I have similar experiences in terms of the pressure that's on us for this organization to win. So we kind of share that bond, maybe uniquely as far as anybody else in the building in terms of the weight that we carry. So yeah, it's good to carry that weight together now. You guys have carried that weight for all 4 years. And if you both have carried that weight, and if you both are the number 1 and number 2 most important people for this franchise winning football games, why now are you just starting to build a connection with each other? It's so weird. And how nobody else in the organization, does Rick Spielman, does nobody else come down after the first year maybe where there's offensive coordinator turmoil and Zimmer had to fire John DeFilippo midseason? Does no one come down and say, all right. The most important relationship here, even though you're a defensive guy, Zim, is Zimmer and Cousins. Mm-hmm. You guys are the most important stakeholders here for us. So how can we build a relationship, and how can we get you guys in a room at least once a week? And how that doesn't happen until year 4? It is incredible.
First of all, I think Mike has, somewhat surprisingly, I think Mike has operated unchecked largely. I don't think Rick is the GM, so ideally Rick does come down. But I mean, it was clear from day one, before they signed Kirk, that Mike begrudgingly would go along with that plan. I mean, Mike made that clear at the Combine. He knew when he talked about it's important not to invest too much into a quarterback because it's going to take away from where we also need help, i.e. my defense. That was about Kirk Cousins. That was 100%. And so the whole thing goes to the point of, 1, Mike begrudgingly took on Kirk, and 2, you can try and spin this any way that you possibly want, but those two do not get along. They are trying, but it's too late now. It's too late. Kirk came in as Rick's adopted kid, and Mike was like, I don't really like him. And now it's like, well, at the end, we'll try and it's not going to work. It's just not going to work. That's the reality that we keep coming back to with games like Sunday is going to continue to happen until there are significant changes made. It's that simple. We can bang our heads against the wall, and the Vikings and Kirk stands can go out of their way, and they will, to tell us that we're wrong, blah, 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 until Kirk is gone, at which point they'll say, Kirk wasn't as good as we thought. That's okay. Which inevitably will happen. But yeah, it's not workable. I feel like everything with the Vikings is trying to grind things out. The games, the relationships, everything is like this begrudging trying to grind things out. And at some point in time, you just have to say, let's all take a step back here. And there are some very necessary divorces that have to take place.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that's well said. If you missed Vikings Vent Line yesterday, it was another great therapy session. Go check it out on the Purple Daily podcast feed or YouTube channel, and sit tight, because we will get to the most passionate, and I would say maybe even studious Vikings fan we know. He grinds the film more than anybody else. Randy in Cottage Grove, a dud stable coming up.